intersection between the male reproductive and the male urinary. In fact, they share some structures, and they come together real closely, very intimately. For example, this is the bladder of the male, and coming out of the bladder there's a urethra, and you notice it's a very long urethra. It extends from the bladder all the way through this is the prostate. Anybody remember that? Through this prostate, so the prostate is bisecting it or dissecting it, and so when it's passing through, if the prostate is swollen, it just kind of clamp down on it, and this is why people with prostate issues, one of the first signs is problems with urination. So the urethra passes and it extends through the penis, and it comes out here. That's a urethral orifice. In fact, the urethra is so long that, again, in the textbook you'll see they talk about prosthetic urethra, membranous urethra, and penile urethra. For my purposes, I stick a pin in there, it's urethra. Okay? But just so you know that they're naming the different parts. You will also notice that the ejaculatory duct, which is the vas deferens merging with the seminal vesicle, then empties into the urethra. So right here is where the first intersection come together. Well, what that means in English is that they're using the same structure for ejaculation and urination. So there better be a separation, or you're gonna pee while you urinate. Right? So, what do you think they're gonna use to separate that? What would be the logical structure? A valve, very good. So guess what? We have sphincters. We have, this diagram doesn't show it very well, but we have we have two sphincters. We have the external urethral sphincter and the internal urethral sphincter. Where have you seen that before? Where have you seen the external sphincter and internal sphincter before?
Stomach. In the rectum?
Not the rectum. I don't know why people won't say anus in the anus. Yeah. The rectum is further up. You can't see the rectum. It's buried inside up there. It's the anal region. You have an external anal sphincter and internal anal sphincter. So guess what? It's going to work the same way. One of the things, if you pay attention in A&P, is that it repeats itself. When you learn in one place, take it with you again, because you're going to see it again and again and again. Whoever designed the system didn't reinvent the wheel. They were lazy. They just reused the same pattern, which makes perfect sense. So we noticed that it worked at the anus, so why would we use it at the urethra? So you have external urethral sphincter and you have internal urethral sphincter. Whenever you see the term external and it refers to sphincter, it means what kind of muscle?
Skeletal.
Skeletal. So going forward, anywhere you see external, if you don't know what it is, guess skeletal and you'll be right. Anywhere you see internal,
Smooth.
smooth, and you'll be right. For example, on the top, you have external and internal muscle. Did you know that? Guess what? External is skeletal, internal is smooth. So, what it means in English is the external, because it's skeletal, you can control it. The internal is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So, when the bladder is full, and there are receptors in the bladder muscle called the suture, the muscle is called the suture muscle. It's called, given that special name because it's loaded with receptors. When the sensation of the full bladder starts to stimulate those receptors, then the internal sphincter will open to release the urine, but you have a ring of external sphincter which you control, and you can determine whether you want to pee or not. Same thing. With the when the ejaculate is coming, that sphincter is going to hold, so that urine, even if urine wants to come, it just has to wait.
The internal hold it.
The internal will hold and the external. They both will hold the urine so that there's no mixing going on. so again, point there is that the urethra and the penis is shared by both systems. And so they have to be nice about it. The other thing, anatomical wise, is that you'll notice that the anus of the male, and this is number 31 is the anus. By the way, the rectum is this part here, 30. You can't see the rectum. The anus is quite a distance away from the penis, right? In fact, the penis hangs out. Well, they're both outside, but the penis is way around there, and the anus is the other way. So, unless you really make an effort, the penis is not supposed to be near the anus. And so, typically, you don't find an anatomic or physiological issue unless you insert something into the penis. Then you can introduce microbes. So they don't get UTIs the way females do. So let's compare the females now. Oh, and I hope you recognize, well, let me show you. This is the urethra that's coming from the kidney up here. That's the bladder, that's the urethra. So let's compare that to the female now. And the female vagina sits posterior to the urethra. Well, here's the bladder, so orient yourself. There's the uterus. Now you know why pregnant people have to go bathroom every second, because you can imagine, remember the urethra respond to fullness or that pressure. So just when that baby is pushing down on the bladder, then you're going to get the sensation that you want to urinate, whether or not there's urine in there. You're going to want to go pee. And if you were like me, all I did was drink water. That was my craving. Can you believe it? Oh my God. I could have rented the bathroom and just lived there. So so that plus the fact that and I had twins going on too, so it didn't help. But you can see the relationship or the proximity of both organs. Then the vagina is right next door to the urethra, but there's the anus. So unlike the male, they all three are pretty close to each other. So what that means is microbes from the anus can simply migrate in this direction, up into the vagina, up into the urethra. But you don't have vaginal infections generally. Why not?
Because it's sphincters? No?
The pH balance. Very good. The vagina is a very hostile, acidic place. So microbes, well, it is. The sperm, I'm surprised they survive. That's why they have to be packed in the semen. And the semen is very alkaline. And that is also why you have 60 million sperm in one teaspoon, because most of them get killed before they get anywhere near the fallopian tube. Well, half of them is abnormal anyway, 2 heads and 1 tail, or 3 tails and no head. But of the normal ones, most of them get killed before they even make it to the uterus, much more the fallopian tube. So one reason is they get an onslaught when they get to the vagina. I don't know what kind of design that is. It's kind of haphazard, don't you think? But anyway, so there's the vagina, there's the proximity of the anus to the vagina, so they don't usually get infected, but the urethra does, because the urethra doesn't have that kind of protection. And the other thing about the anatomy is the length of the urethra. It's pretty short, and so it doesn't take the microbes much to migrate up. And in fact, you not only get UTIs, but you get cystitis too. Bladder infections are fairly often occurrence in females. Now, while we're at it, one of my pet peeves is the way students spell vagina. So if you don't know how to spell vagina, go learn it, because if I stick a pin in there and you put something other than vagina, I'm subtracting the 2 for the pin and plus 5 for spelling it wrong. So that's 7 points down the drain right away. No kidding. Oh,
It is
you'll be surprised.
vagina, right?
Yeah. Oh, Oh, I get all sorts of variations of it. I even get for JJ.
No.
They're not allowed to say for JJ. Nor are you allowed to, nor are you allowed to say butthole. Well, that what I do on the exam, or what I years ago we didn't have these models here. We just had the kidney and the real kidney and Mr. Henry and the cat. So I would, not me alone, everybody repeats the same structure, just on different models. And I get so bored, I start putting what I call gross anatomy. I figured it's the last day of 2018. If people don't know the eye, or the ear, or the nose, they have no business passing the course anyway. So one year I stick a pin in the anus. I figured everybody know the anus. Well, didn't I get butthole? Oh. I was so annoyed because I'm thinking this must be a joke, but this is the last exam and you put butthole? So you're not allowed to do butthole, it's anus. And, all right, so that's it for female. Oh, we have the term urogenital sinus on the list. Now, that is referring to the anatomy of the cat, female cat. So the male cat looks exactly like the male human. They have a prostate, they have the urethra passing through it, you have the same anatomy. Female cat has a urethra, a vagina, they merge together and then they come out as one opening. So you, instead of 1, 2, 3 opening, you'd have only 2 openings.
Why is that?
The anterior one would be urogenital sinus, and the other one would be the anus. And the urogenital sinus is small compared to the anus. This is important because years ago when we were in the HD building, I had a student said, I think we were doing reproductive, I don't remember, but she thought you pee from your vagina. Oh. And so I always, since then, I just kind of assume everybody knew you didn't, but since then I take my time to point out that females don't pee from the vagina. You have a small orifice in front of the vagina. It seems like it is because it's tiny and you're not looking. So you think
I think it's very understandable. I thought the same thing back in like middle school. I didn't take it.
Well, middle
You're
school,
looking
yeah,
down. It looks like it's coming out the same place.
Yes, it does. And that's my point. My point is, you just kind of assume. It's not unfair or unusual to assume when you're small, but once you get bigger, I would just assume. But she didn't know, and it's not a bad thing she said it. But what that reminded me is to make it clear that you do have 3 orifices. One for anus, one for vaginal orifice, and one for urethral orifice. And they all do different functions. The cat, on the other hand, the female cat, does share the same orifice. When you go in, then it splits off, and you have the vagina and you have the urethra. So that anatomy is short. And female cat gets infections as well. So that was the purpose of this. And so now we're going to go a bit deeper. So we see the kidney, and like I said, this is where the processing is going on. So we're going to go to what they call the ultrastructure or the microscopic structures. And that's what this is showing you. It's graduating for you. You start with the kidney, and you take a section out of the kidney, like you take a little piece right here, and you graduate to here. So this piece of brown thing there would be the covering. That's your renal capsule. This part here is the cortex. This is the medulla. This is the bottom part of the medulla sitting down in the calyx.